Now, a big guest today, Rebecca Front, has been in some of the best loved shows on British TV, from The Day Today to Alan Partridge to The Thick of It and War and Peace. Her next is a drama written by Kay Mellor. It's called Love, Lies and Records. Thank you so much for being with us, Rebecca. Lovely to have you.
Hello, lovely to be here.
Tell us about this brilliant UK melodrama, and I say brilliant because I've always loved everything that Kay Mellor's done, so I'm kind of just expecting it to be. This is set in a registry office, is that right?
It is, that's right, and I'm glad you said that because I'm a big Kay Mellor fan myself.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I'm a big fan of registry offices.
Well, and yes, indeed, those two
together, amazing.
Why wouldn't we be?
Yeah.
So Kay just was drawn to the idea of doing something set in a registry office because, literally all human life is there. So people go in to register births and then their marriages and then deaths. They don't go in to register their own deaths, obviously. But so you get that complete sweep of life going through those offices. And then, of course, the registrars themselves have their own lives and their own dramas going on. So it's kind of perfect for somebody like Kay, who is just so brilliantly incisive and observant and is so great also at writing those kind of every man, every woman characters. And I do genuinely think this is a really, really strong series and really great scripts. And I'm very pleased to be part of it.
Such a great idea, isn't it? You think, wow, I can't believe that hasn't been done before, because as you say, you can get all sorts of drama in there.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, it's been touched on before. I believe my friend David Schneider did a comedy series set in a registry office some years ago. But it is just so, open to wonderful storylines that can take you through. I mean, another thing that I hadn't really thought about is that citizenship ceremonies take place in registry offices, or at least are conducted by registrars. So that's something that Kay is dealing with. And also things like the early stages of an investigation into possible sham marriages, like sort of immigration scams, those kind of things. So she's really sort of covered all bases with this drama. And the lovely thing I've actually only seen the first episode so far myself, but the lovely thing is that she sets a whole load of plates spinning, and I think it will really draw people in to come back and watch more.
What did you really love about playing Judy, character?
Judy is just unlike
You've got a big smile on your face as you're describing it as well. Yeah,
she's unlike any character I'd seen in a script before. So I was sent the first script and started reading and thought, whoa, this woman is just crazy, just sort of really interestingly weird. And I love that. I just want to play characters who are different from any previous character I've played. That's always a big plus. But also, I like characters that make me sort of think, how am I going to do that? How am I going to play that? Because obviously, as the actor, you can't just do an impression of somebody behaving like that. You've actually got to get inside their heads and figure out why they behave the way they behave. And she does some very seriously odd things. So that was great, just to try and get inside her head.
So is there a composite of various people you know and people that you've met, and then trying to imagine this sometimes unsympathetic individual?
Fair to say.
I was going to say, yes, I would not be doing anybody any favours by saying, I tell you who it's based on. It's based on my friend. I mean, actually, genuinely, I would never base a character anyway on one person. I always
I'll take a composite.
I'm a magpie. I take a little bit from this person, a little bit from that person. But also, Kay's work is so, because Kay started out as an actress, and she writes very much like an actor, I think, only much better than most actors. But she gets inside the characters herself. So it's not like you have to spend a lot of time digging around to find the humanity, because it's actually all there on the page. These characters do sort of jump out at you as you're reading them.
That's a joy.
Yeah, and when you mentioned humanity, it would have been easy to play your character with a lot less warmth, but I get the sense that you wanted to bring warmth to her.
Well, I wanted to understand why she behaved the way she behaved. And then Dominic, who directed our first couple of episodes, said the first thing he said to me was, she's not the Wicked Witch of the West. And I said, oh, brilliant, good, because I don't want her to just be a two-dimensional villain. And actually she isn't in the way that she behaves. She just does something, which I don't want to spoil for your listeners, but she does something really weird and wrong in the first episode. And what we decided to do was that the moment that she does this thing that I won't tell you about, we felt that should be an accident, that it just comes out, and she didn't really mean to say it. And once she said it, the toothpaste is out of the tube and there's no way back from there. And that was a really good way in for me, so that I just don't think she ever meant any of this to happen.
Well, let's hear 44 seconds to give people an idea of the entirety of Love, Lies and Records. So Rebecca's character Judy is making it hard for Kate, which is played by Ashley Jensen, to arrange a hospice wedding for a dying woman.
Yeah, well, we don't know if she's got a tomorrow.
We've got the citizenship this afternoon.
Yeah, I know, but you and Anna could do that together.
Do we have a doctor's letter?
She's in St Thomas's Hospice. I think that speaks for itself. We could just tell the GRO we've got it and get all the necessaries when we're there.
I don't think we can get a general licence that quickly.
Well, we've done it before, several times. So are you going to ring or shall I? And do you know where the keys
Cause
are?
complete mayhem. Talia, keys in the top drawer of my desk.
They should be on the rack.
People were forgetting to sign for them, and at the end of the day, we are responsible for those certificates. A few changes around here after today.
Was there a point ever, Rebecca, when you were around Ashley Jensen and not laughing?
We go most of the time. I have to say we were very, very professional. All of us in that office, we were all very professional. But there was one, because obviously a lot of the storylines are quite serious as well. There was one complete meltdown with me and Ashley, and I don't think either of us could quite fathom what had caused it. But there was just a moment when we both, I think I gave her the wrong cue in a rehearsal, and accused her of being homophobic, which was actually it was me talking to a completely different character in a completely different scene. I just suddenly said, "You're homophobic," and she sort of went, "No, I'm not actually." And we just went, and I think it was that thing of when you're a bit tired, and it was after a number of weeks, long hours. And
She seems a lot of fun, though,
could not breathe at all. We were laughing so much. She's brilliant, Ashley, and she's so good in this as well. She's so versatile, and she makes it look incredibly easy. And what she's doing in this role is not easy at all. I think she's terrific.
When you look back at what Kay Mellor's just done on her own in the last few years, In the Club, The Syndicate, Lucky Seven, A Passionate Woman, The Chase, Strictly Confidential, Between the Sheets, Fat Friend, Band of Gold, Playing the Field. I mean, the work speaks for itself, really.
Yeah, she's
but
just slumming it. She's lazy.
She's just really not putting the hours in.
Work her out.
But all of those things have, I remember watching all of them when they came out, and they always have a good contemporary political kind of feel to them, an undercurrent to them that identifies with what is going on in the world now. And I know that you are a news junkie. She said that Brexit did influence this programme. How do you think that comes across? Mostly in the immigration stories, or?
Yeah, I think it was particularly probably in. I mean, there's a citizenship ceremony that takes place in the first episode, and it's a really beautiful ceremony. Obviously, I'd never been to one before, but so we reenact that. And I think she really wanted to get across the idea that this is an inclusive country, and that's one of the things that is its great strength. So that's really where she's placed her emphasis. So on the one hand, there are storylines that deal with the dark side of immigration, in terms of sort of sham marriages and so on, because that's something that people in registry offices have to deal with. But she's setting out her stall very clearly and saying, yes, but I think immigration is a really good thing, and I think it's a real bonus to this country. And of course, we all know Brexit was about more than just immigration, but nonetheless, it was something that came up a lot during the referendum. So I think that was why Kay said she actually revisited the scripts and just went through to see if she could set out her stall even more clearly.
You've been a politician, obviously, in the thick of it, and news and journalism in the day-to-day. But you have said yourself that you've actually tried almost to steer clear of it recently because you can't quite believe what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I am obsessed, in particular, actually, I'd say with American politics. I've turned into this sort of crazy person who wakes up in the morning and reads the Washington Post and the New York Times to see what on earth that man has done now. So I am, I am.
That must cheer you up, no
Yeah,
end,
it really
everyone.
does. I'm in a foul mood permanently. But yeah, consequently, I think I'm finding the world quite bewildering, and lots of people I talk to feel the same way. So there have been. I mean, ever since I did the thick of it, I get approached from time to time to write articles for newspapers or to appear on Question Time or Newsnight or something, and I've done it a few times when I felt like I had something to contribute, but at the moment I just think, well, all I do is kind of sit there and just go, I don't know. I don't get it any more than you do. And I don't think anybody's really going to want me to do that.
So I was reading an interview with you where you said you'd kind of drifted to the right, so you're bang in the middle now.
Does
that mean yeah. Seven
When did I
years,
say that?
7 years ago.
Okay, yes, right.
So but you drifted to the right so that you were bang in the middle. And you thought that, and isn't everybody, and that in 2010, you could have said probably yes, people were looking for the centre ground. That seems to be less the case now. Yeah. I wonder if you've then shifted back to the left.
Well, I tend to steer clear of my own personal politics, although I suspect, I don't actually remember saying it in the interview, but I know when I was in the sixth form, I was very into, for example, unilateral nuclear disarmament, and I used to... Right. Go around and do talks for this debating society I'd formed. I was such a geeky kid, honestly. But anyway, I used to do talks about that kind of thing. So
While Tony Blair was in a band doing his stuff at Oxford. Yeah.
So I suppose, and also I think teenagers tend to be quite slightly more extreme, don't they? Right or left, although probably predominantly more left.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what I meant by having drifted more to the centre. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, as I say, I tend to steer clear of my own personal party political views. But there are certain things where I feel sometimes you do have to kind of speak up. So there are things on Twitter every now and then where I just kind of wave a flag above the parapet and just go, yes, I believe this. Actually, I believe this.
But if you just read David Schneider, you'll get. On Twitter, you'll probably get all that you need.
Yeah, he's fantastic, actually, isn't he?
He really goes in.
You get all the information you need and also a lot of comedy thrown in.
Now, I'm wondering if you still have the most showbiz ailment I think I've ever heard anyone have, which is BAFTA elbow.
Yeah.
Are you still suffering from BAFTA elbow?
Thank you for caring. Mine is now, it's righted itself, but if anybody's listening and anybody's been affected by this terrible condition, please tell me. Yeah. It was simply, I think it was a trapped nerve. I know it sounds ridiculous. I was just a little bit freaked out. I'd been clutching my very heavy BAFTA to me all night the night I won it because I was terrified.
For the thick of it, for Nicola Murray, right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
So I walked around all evening for probably like 6 hours or something, clutching this very heavy bit of metal and woke up the next morning and I'd lost all feeling in my arm. And
I think
I was about to die.
They have a special clinic in the corner of Groucho for people who've got BAFTA elbow. Yeah.
There was also a moment, actually, a few months afterwards, when I looked at the BAFTA on my shelf and it had tarnished somewhat, and I was seriously about to tweet, "Does anybody know how to how to polish a BAFTA?" And I thought, that's going to be the end of my career if I do that. People will hate my guts. So I managed to stop myself doing it.
What did you use in the end? Bit of Brasso.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, worked a treat, actually. I don't know if you're meant to do that, but
I wish you'd tweeted that.
So I'll do what I want with it.
I wish you could have created a whole comic character around that person, couldn't you? With BAFTA elbow. I really need to get my BAFTA polished.
All she talks about, this woman, is her BAFTA.
Did I mention I won a BAFTA in 2010?
Have you consciously looked more recently for more dramatic roles over comedic roles, or do you just look for what's good, Rebecca?
I really just look for what's interesting, and it tends to sort of swing backwards and forwards. So there was a time a few years ago when I thought, okay, I've done almost entirely comedy, and I actually set out to be a straight actress. So at that point, yes, I did consciously look for more straight roles. But at the moment, no, I'm just happy with stuff comes in and I read it, and if I really love the idea of it, then I'll go with it. And of course, there is a lot of overlap. I mean, there are bits of comedy in Love, Lies and Records. And, Judy, I think, when I was playing Judy, because I think she's such a tortured soul, I felt like she was a bit of a sort of tragic anti-heroine. And then at the screening of the first episode, I got laughs and I wasn't really anticipating that. But I think, Kay was perfectly happy with that and said, yeah, she's funny. And I just hadn't quite seen her that way. So there's always an overlap, really, with comedy and drama.
You also used to get offered the wacky friend or the vicar's wife role quite a lot. What was all that about?
I think, well, there's always that tendency just to play the mother or the wife.
Is that an age thing?
Yeah, I think so. You start, exactly. You start off playing the girlfriend and then the wife and or the boss or something like that. And it's partly an age thing. It's partly I think sort of how people perceive you. So if I play a stern character in something, then the next few things I get offered will all be stern parts. And so when I played the boss in Lewis, who is this rather sort of stern, humourless woman, for some time afterwards, those were the only kind of parts I got offered. And then you suddenly go the other way and you play a hapless comedy part, and then you get offered lots of hapless comedy parts. But listen, these are champagne problems, rather like having a tarnished BAFTA.
Or indeed a BAFTA elbow.
These are not things that one wants to complain about, because I'm just incredibly lucky I'm getting scripts at all. So, the question of whether or not they're funny or whether they're straight is not something I want to concern other people with.
Mm-hmm. It seems as though you have always worked, that you've had a very, very successful career. Have there been fallow periods?
Oh yeah, I've never met an actor who hasn't had fallow periods. It's inevitable, and also a lot of the perception of you being, of one working constantly is down to scheduling, and there's of course nothing at all that you can do to control that.
And repeats, of course.
Yeah, yes, quite. And I remember doing. I'd done two things a couple of years ago at either end of the year. One was filmed January and one was filmed in November or something. And they ended up going out actually almost overlapping. I think, they were both on a Monday night, but with a slight difference at exactly the same time. So then I was getting messages on Twitter from people saying, you must be the busiest person. How can you possibly be in all these things? And I thought, yeah, but actually those two series were filmed months and months and months apart. I have no control over when they go out. So sometimes it's illusory, the thing of, being constantly in work.
And have you felt that the older you've got, that you have been offered more roles, better roles for women? As you wouldn't be offered roles for men, presumably.
Well,
so I will go.
I'm an actress, for goodness sake. I'll do anything. I think so. Yeah, I think they have got more interesting. I mean, I'm one of those actors who I rarely got offered sort of, romantic lead parts, juvenile leads. I would never have been cast as Juliet. I would always have been cast as Lady Capulet or the nurse or someone. So in a sense, I've always played character parts, and that hasn't changed. But I think there are more of those parts possibly as you get a little bit older. But it swings and roundabouts, because equally there are fewer parts for women generally once you get over the age of 40. So it's very much a question of just kind of seizing on stuff and hoping that you can you can blag your way into actually just getting it.
But Rebecca, once the conversation started about roles for women over 40, not just in acting but in presenting on television, etc., did you see a sea change? Did you notice?
I don't think it's a sea change. I think there are improvements. And one of the things that's significantly improving it is having more female writers, which of course brings us back to the amazing Kay, who is so prolific and writes such brilliant parts for women of all ages. But clearly the more women writers you get, the more women producers you get, the more women directors you get. I mean, our middle block on Love, Lies and Records was directed by Cilla Ware, brilliant woman director, and we had a woman producer, Yvonne Francis. So the more women you get, the more you start to get opportunities for women, and that's sort of fairly self-evident, I think.
It's interesting because I talked to Jodie Foster about this very recently, and she said that actually the problem of women writers is not so much an issue in Hollywood, it's women directors in Hollywood that is the massive issue. There's like about 3 that anybody ever sees putting their head above the parapet. But do you think here in the UK we do well with writers and directors a bit in TV?
My experience is there's nowhere near parity in terms of directors, but there are lots of brilliant women directors. I've worked with a number over the years, but yeah, there certainly isn't parity at all, and there should be.
Well, quite right. You are, however, loving being in your 50s and wouldn't go back to being in your 20s for all the money in the world. Is that fair to say?
Not in my 20s. I mean, I wouldn't mind being in my 30s, maybe. But no, I didn't really feel particularly comfortable, I think, in my 20s. I always felt like I was a bit older than that. I had a conversation with a group of people recently about what age you feel you were born at. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Still? And I think I was always 36. So I'm still 36 now, and I intend to stay that way. But certainly in my 20s, I was kind of 36, thinking, why aren't people taking me more seriously?
but your daughter has encouraged you to be more confident, especially in the way you dress? Isn't that right?
Absolutely. I think
She's 16, is that
She's
right?
16. We did. I'm glad to say. I think we've done a good job. She's pretty confident about herself, and consequently, she won't hear any lack of confidence from me. So when we're shopping together, which we do a lot, she just won't accept it if I say things like, "Oh, I can't wear that. I can't get away with that." She just says, "Yes, you can, Mum. That's just not acceptable to say that. Why can't you? It's just a number, and if it suits you, you can wear it. Why shouldn't you be?" So she has done wonders for me, actually. Yeah, and because she's quite honest with me. She'll tell me if things suit me and don't suit me. That means I can trust her judgment. So she will absolutely sort of boost my confidence at every level.
Looking forward to seeing you rock the Rihanna look at the next awards
I
ceremony.
don't think that's going to be
Got to be
happening, no.
more confident, Rebecca. Listen to Tilly. She's keeping it real.
There's a line.
She's keeping it real.
There may be a line, possibly.
It's really lovely to hear that you have such a close relationship with your daughter, because I have a daughter, and I see that friction between mothers and daughters.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, clearly there's,
It's not all,
teenage kids. You're going to have, friction. But yeah, I've got a son as well who's nearly 19, and we are actually, all four of us, I think, we are very, very close. And I don't know. I haven't got any kind of magic wand about parenting, but I do think that Phil and I have always had this attitude, which is, listen and explain, and possibly with the emphasis on listening. So we've never really laid down the law, but at the same time, we're not kind of such liberal parents that we just let them do whatever they want to do. So we just try to listen to, when they're saying, "I just don't want to do that. I'm just sick of it. I don't even want to talk about it." We try and listen to all of that while at the same time saying, "Okay, yeah, right. No, I have listened. I've heard all of that and I understand. Let me just put my point of view now, which is that, you actually have to go to school today." Or so I think that's sort of how we've done
You
it.
have to take a bath at some point this week.
So we have tried to avoid, aggressive confrontation and to try and keep it as sort of discursive.
You have said, though, that you are really bad at complaining. In restaurants and stuff, you find it really difficult.
Yeah, I
to
do. I still do. I find it very, very difficult. My husband has encapsulated it in the phrase "ask the lady," and he just says I'm the worst person in the world at asking the lady, and it's true. So I go into a shop and look around the shelves, and if the thing I'm looking for isn't on the shelf, I come out and say they didn't have it.
Me too.
Do you?
Oh, I can't be doing with it. In the supermarket, closed shoppings. No, I'm just like, no, that's not there.
Why?
Is that funny?
I don't know why I do that, and I don't complain in restaurants
You do
ever. And if
realise-
somebody in my company complains in the restaurant, I am mortified.
Absolutely, me too.
I see. You should have married an American like I did. They have no issue with that whatsoever.
But does that mean that you get your partner to do it for you then?
Well, one of the things she always did, which I never quite understood, which is a very American thing, is when you order in a restaurant and you say to the person who's serving you, "What's good? What's good? What do you like?
Oh,
What do you
right.
like?" Because I would think, why would I ask you that? I don't know you. I don't know what your tastes are.
And also, then you've got to take what they, because it's so rude then to go, "Yeah, I'm looking at you, I'm thinking, I'm not going to have what you're having." Yeah, I think that's a bad
Try that in
move.
Nando's.
It's ridiculous.
Chicken is good here.
Yeah, right. Also, you're very honest, aren't you? You're a very honest person. And I was reading about the time when you accidentally stole a garlic bulb.
Oh, yes.
Aren't you such a sweet, honest person?
I don't know if I'm particularly sweet. No, I am sort of, honest to a fault. Yes, I got home and it's a long story, but the gist is I got home and discovered that there was this garlic bulb that wasn't in the shopping bag and made me think, I'm pretty sure I didn't pay for that. And I couldn't, because my kids at the time were very, very small, I couldn't sort of get them back to the shop, put them back in their car seats, drive them back. So the next week I went into the shop, did my shop again, bought an extra garlic, paid for it, and then said, "Will you please take this back? I don't need the garlic, I just needed to pay for it." And they called the manager. They thought I was completely crazy. They did. They were very sweet. In the end, the guy just he said, "Please take the garlic." I said, "I don't want the garlic. And if I take the garlic, I've still got the guilt. I still have to live with this guilt."
You're not Catholic, by any chance?
I'm not. I'm Jewish. It's the same thing. Catholics, Jews.
Oh, yes, quite. Yes.
It's all predicated
Guilt
on
is guilt. Yeah.
Guilt is guilt.
You're listening to the wonderful Rebecca Front, who's going to be our guest for the next 20 minutes or so here on 5 Live. It's afternoon edition. It's 2:30. Much indeed. When you look back, though, at those extraordinarily funny times in all of those series, like The Thick of It and like Alan Partridge, and specifically, I think, for both Nihal and I, The Day to Day, how do you just reflect on being part of some of the funniest stuff that's been on telly in decades?
I think I just massively lucked out, really, because I just happened to sort of drift into, I did a radio series which was produced by Armando Iannucci, and he asked me to be in another radio series, and then he asked me to do this pilot for this thing called On the Hour, which I knew nothing about at all, with this guy called Chris Morris and another guy called Steve Coogan. I didn't know anything about them either. And it went on from there. And I just think I was massively, massively fortunate.
I'm puzzled by why Chris Morris has not become bigger than I think he deserves to be.
I think Chris has managed his career exactly the way he wants to manage it, actually.
Right.
He's very, very shrewd. He's incredibly selective. He knows just what he wants to be doing, and he knows exactly what he doesn't want to do. And I think, I think Chris is absolutely placed where he would want to be placed at the moment.
Yeah, I just wonder if he managed to alienate himself from people who are just not as talented as him, who are in charge of kind of commissioning and making things. And he just always struck me as the guy who's never shy to tell someone, as he did once, Michael Grade. Which we won't go into, obviously.
You'll have to tell me subsequently. I don't think I know that story.
Oh, right, okay.
The funny thing with Chris, though, which is that I haven't worked with him for a while, and I don't see him that often, but we've sort of socialised with him and his partner over the years, on and off. And I remember him coming round to our place for dinner some years ago. And all the other guests were terrified because they thought they were meeting that bloke off The Day to Day, that sort of presenter character. And Chris is the most charming, urbane, delightful guest imaginable. And I just remember after they'd left, everybody going, oh, wow, because he's just so lovely and delightful. As I say, just going back to your question, I doubt very much that it's because he's alienated people in any way. I think he just is very, very choosy and very selective, and he wants control over what he does.
He's so brilliant.
Well, we really want to have a little reminder of The Thick of It, because we all absolutely adore it. You have been on 5 Live before as yourself.
Yeah, it didn't end well.
This is great. Okay, so this is the wonderful MP Nicola Murray, the hapless Nicola Murray, having a car crash interview with presenter Richard Bacon. And this is her trying to explain a new policy while her staff listen on in the 5 Live studio.
What we would be looking for is getting people to inspire each other out of poverty, out of disadvantage.
How can you be inspired out of poverty?
Well, I'm choosing to ignore your rather cynical tone.
Well, look,
Richard.
I'm not being cynical, Nicky Murray. It's a perfectly legitimate question. How can you be inspired out of poverty?
OK, you are being cynical, but anyway, we'll park that. One of our initiatives is to designate
Nicola,
certain people as fourth sector pathfinders. Now, they would be pillars of a normal community.
Are you talking about have-a-go heroes, for example?
No, we're talking about everyday heroes.
I assume you'd want to avoid Charles Bronson-style vigilanteism.
Oh yes, we don't want Charles Bronson. More Charles dance.
Fourth sector pathfinders. I'm amazed that hasn't caught on.
I think it did. There was something very similar to that a few years ago. It's funny listening to that, actually, because I've watched it on telly, but listening to I can hear that I'm almost laughing. There are a number of scenes in the thick of it where I was almost laughing. There's one set in the Guardian offices as well, which I don't think I ever got. We must have done about 10 takes on that scene. I never got through the scene without completely crumpling up and laughing. And I can absolutely see it every time I watch it back. I think, that's the bit where I went.
There's a great bit in the one that we've just played as well, where Peter Capaldi, there's a text, isn't there, from a text or Tim in Leith or something.
Tim from Ruislip.
Tim from Ruislip.
Tim from Ruislip.
Yeah.
We obviously couldn't play that clip.
No, because it's got Peter Capaldi's character in it.
Yes.
You can't play anything with Malcolm Tucker.
Anything in it.
Oh, so good.
Look, Rebecca, it's been fantastic speaking to you today. Thank
you very much for having me.
Being on the show. And if I ever see you in a supermarket, I'm going to plant things.
Oh, no, don't. Whatever you do.
Just
Never swap suitcases with him anyway.
No,
Oh,
quite.
nice to you. Rebecca, it's a pleasure. And when can we see Love, Lies and Records?
You can see it this Thursday night on BBC One, I think at 9 o'clock. Yes, I'm getting a nod, 9 o'clock. That's when it's on. Don't miss it. It really, seriously is very good.
It is indeed. Seriously now,
Yeah,
in all honesty.
seriously
now.
is very good, even though I'm in it. It's really very good.
Thank you very much, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Rebecca Front there. Really looking forward to seeing that one. It is very, very good. And Ashley Jensen, of course, in it as well.
Very much. That was huge fun.
Brilliant.